Hey guys, I figured I'd take a break while I was wiring up a car here, and I would show y'all something that I see a lot of questions being asked about as of lately. It's build season. People are stripping their cars down, rewiring them, adding stuff, removing stuff, whatnot. So I figured I would lend a little bit of advice for all y'all that are redoing your cars, and that's about your electronics placement. So this car that's here now, I figured was kind of a perfect example. Now, granted, most of y'all that are going to watch this don't have something like this, and if you do, maybe this will help you too. But most of y'all are going to be in LS swap Fox bodies, and you're trying to clean things up, make it nice, and make it a more dependable, reliable application. So I figured I would point out a couple things that a lot of people seem to question and then seem to kind of screw up. So the first thing is that you can never have enough space. So don't ever try to get overly crammed with what you're trying to do. So don't try to put 5 pounds of equipment in a 1 pound bag. So on this car, and like as you can tell, I literally just stopped what I was doing, and I picked up my camera, and I figured I'd film it. So you can see those EGT wiring that's hanging there. That's not terminated or cut to length or anything yet, but I wanted to show the layout of things. So the customer, he had already mounted the ECU and the secondary injector driver module. This combination is going to have 16 billet atomizer, I think 575 injectors. So we're going to be running this the secondary injector driver module, but the customer already mounted the ECU and the injector driver module, and then I mounted the MSD Pro 600 and the customer supplied EGT amplifier box here. So the reason this is kind of important is because when you lay all this stuff out on a sheet of carbon, a sheet of aluminum, or whatever it may be, you look at it and you go, oh, look, it all fits. Well, once you start adding wiring to this, it starts to take up a good bit more room, and then you have relay boards that have to go in, and you have hopefully you do not have any terminal strips that have to go in. But if you do, you need some room for them. Just give yourself some more space. So the purpose of this short video here is to just kind of show you that this is typically what I try to aim for space. Right, so we're going to walk around over there. Let me go over here. All right, so this is a good size carbon panel, 2 of them. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the ECU around so the connections point downward. But the reason for this is that you're going to have wiring that comes off of here, and it's going to go towards the engine this way, right? And it'll go pop through the firewall somewhere. You probably have a stock firewall with a hole already. But what you want to do is when you're laying these out, when you're laying out all these connections or all these boxes and devices, you want to lay it out so that the wire has got somewhere to move and somewhere to go, and it also can pick up devices, right? So like we know we're going to come out of the ECU with our coil triggers, and we're going to be going into the Pro 600 here for an input, right? We know that we're going to have analog output from this EGT amplifier. It's going to have to go in here, right? So just quick and easy looking at it, this makes sense to flip this upside down. The other reason why I typically never want to point the connectors up is because, well, I mean, I put a plug in every single pin that isn't used, but this is a spot for dust, right? So if you don't put these plugs in here, it's bound to get filled with dust. The other thing is that by turning this around, most people think, oh, well, it's easy to plug into here and into the USB. By turning it around, what we can do is we can add some strain relief by even a simple zip tie to here to hold the data cable, or Motion Raceworks makes a little thing that holds it here. So this will be at the bottom, and then the cord, will wind up running around over here. It'll get zip tied up so that if you do pull on it, you don't rip it out of the ECU. Sitting here like this, there's a good chance that this is going to get ripped out of the ECU just because it's out in the open and it's kind of waiting to get ripped out of the ECU. The next thing, you also kind of want to lay it out where you're going to have power, right? So the shorter the run, the better, obviously. So with this combo, or with this car, he's got a battery box built right here. We don't have a battery yet for it, but this is the battery box. So we know battery power is going to be right there. The disconnect is going to be somewhere in this area, right? Or maybe back here. And we have to run power to all these devices, right? So we need to have power, from the battery. So for the ECU up here, we need power for the CDI box. Well, the CDI box power is actually going to come from the firewall up there. I got one in. I got to put another one in. But those will run straight to the battery. You'll have a bunch of wires. When this is all done, there's going to be a lot of wiring all through here. So the idea is to leave a lot of room, right? Even if this was facing up, there's still a good bit of room here, because if all the wiring is going to go forward, this is going to grow, this area, right? Because this car's got a lot of sensors and stuff in it. So this is going to grow. There's going to be more and more wiring that has to go this way, right? So you just don't want to get too cluttered. It seems like the lack of planning ahead is the biggest problem when it comes to people wiring cars, because they get to a point where they're stuck in a corner and they don't have any more room, and then they just start slinging stuff everywhere because you get frustrated and whatnot. So leave yourself some space down here with this car. Down here is where I'm going to be putting a leash relay board down here, and then I can run the data cable from the switch panel up there, nice along here, along this rail, and go right into our relay board down here. We can pick up power from here, so we're gonna have to power our injectors. We're gonna have to empower this powers the coils, but if you had smart coils, you'd be picking up power for your coils down here as well. We know the harness has got to go from here, right, over to there, somewhere in the firewall, right? So by flipping this upside down, we'll run our wiring down along here. Okay, there's a good chassis ground right here, so we can pick up a chassis ground if we need to. We can branch off, hit our input for our coils, right? And then right along the way, pick up our harness, our output for our coils right here. And if we come along over here, we're going to pick up battery ground if we need it for our harness. And then we can also pick up power from our relay panel. So it's nice and fluid, right? So that's the whole idea here, is to have this nice and fluid. And I'm leaving this area here on the outside of where the relay board's going to sit, so that I can affix the harness that I build for it to here, so it doesn't dance around and vibrate and whatnot. It's going to come up along this bar here, and it'll go through the firewall. So I figured I'd take 10 minutes of your time, kind of give you an idea of how to get a better product out of your job that you do, your installation that you do. The end result will be a lot nicer if you just take some time. And like, when I say some time, I don't mean you and your buddy drinking in the garage and you spent 3 minutes looking at it and go, oh, this is going to work out great. Mock it up a couple times, move it around. I know everybody, when you buy, you buy all of your EFI stuff or all your electronics, or you say, hey, I'm going to, rewire this whole car this winter, whatever it is, y'all get in a big hot rush, like there's something going on. If you get into a huge hot rush with wiring, you'll be chasing problems all year long, okay? So there's, and it happens to people that, do this full time as well, so there's been plenty of info and intel floating around about, some people, they get in a hot rush to wire a car for a customer because the customer's in a time constraint or whatever it is, and they screw something up, and then it turns into chasing a problem for weeks or months, hours, weeks or months, whatever it is, that could have been alleviated by just slowing down a little bit, right? So take your time, get yourself some good lighting, because that's another thing, right? Is that, oh, well, man, I didn't see it up underneath the dash. Well, pull the dash out, right? Don't be afraid to remove the dash from your car. If it takes you 2 or 3 hours, but you don't have to contort yourself like an idiot to get up underneath of there, and then you can't see half of what you're doing, it's worth the 2 or 3 hours. And plus, you'll probably find a little bit of weight that can come out of that thing. So hopefully this little video helps y'all out, and we get to see 2020 with a little bit cleaner wiring jobs and less problems. See ya.